Hi. So this vlog is not going to start out the way my usual Artist Alley vlogs will, and that is because this day did not go even remotely close to how I planned it. And I would also like to note that this vlog, at the time that it was recorded, not this time, because this is more present time than the actual CarrierCon vlog, this mid-March time frame is what started off the month and a half of literal hell that I lived through. But anyway, we left this morning with an hour and a half to spare to set up for CarrierCon. And we took a couple of wrong turns off of the freeway, and that put us behind, and we didn't show up to set up until 9:45 when the doors opened at 10. So we did the fastest setup ever known to man, but we also decided pretty quickly that the circumstances in Artist Alley were not ideal. So that kind of like gives you a little bit of preface for how the actual filmed clips of this con go. But I'll talk about all of this at the end and throughout the rest of the video, where I discuss kind of what happened and why we left early. And I will also compare it a lot to our previous year at CarrierCon, which I also highly recommend checking out that video. But anyway, I will see you at the end. So CarrierCon, it is, what time is it? 12:30. We got in super late because we took some wrong turns and didn't get to set up until like 9:50. Show opened at 10. Good morning. Anyway, sorry for the like crazy camera squiggly wigglies. I'm holding it with my hand because we are so cramped in the Artist Alley that I don't really have anywhere to put my tripod. I already knew that it was going to be a 6-foot table because that's what it was last year, but they have crammed us in end-to-end tables and back-to-back with other tables on the next row, so there's like hardly standing room, let alone storage room, or tripod room for that matter. And it says outside and it says online that it's a sold-out show for the weekend. It doesn't feel like that. And I understand being on the USS Hornet that there's probably a capacity, so it's not like as many people as you'd get in like a convention center, but it still just doesn't feel at all like it did last year, so a little disappointing for that. And yeah, sales have been really slow, so it's a bummer. Okay, 3262. Grab you a business card. Thank you. Okay. There's your goodies and your stamp cards on it. Thank you. I've not been vlogging much today, but it is 10 till 5. The event actually ends at 5 and not 6 today like I thought. However, it has been so much slower this year for us than it was last year, and for it to be a 2-day event and we've made like half of what we did in 1 day last year, it's really hard to justify spending another day to make the same amount of money we did in 1 day last year, if that makes any sense to anybody. We also have a lot of personal stuff going on. If you watched last week's vlog about Anime in Fresno, Olive was having some health issues. She's still having those health issues, and we still took the risk to come up here and do this show. So we want to get back to her. And also, literally on Monday, we have people coming to start on our floors, which you will hopefully see in another vlog or two. So there's a lot for us to do, and it like kind of kills me to be here standing around not doing anything when we have things to do. So I will talk more about this in the rest of the vlog. But yeah, that's a wrap for CarrierCon 2026 for the Lay Spirit Designs booth. Okay, even though I technically signed off for the con portion of this video, Ryan got me so much great B-roll footage, I figured I would show off some of that while I talk a little bit more in depth about our experience this year and what's been going on at home. So the week prior to this CarrierCon vlog, we were at Anime, which you can check out that vlog. It was the one uploaded right before this. And our dog Olive was having some health issues that weekend. I didn't actually end up talking about all of that in the Anime vlog like I assumed I would have. And if you haven't kept up with our stories on Instagram, I will fill in the blanks. So the weekend of Anime, Olive started squinting out of one of her eyes. It got worse on that Sunday, and I left to go do that con alone while Ryan took her to the vet. They weren't sure what was going on with her, so they gave her a broad spectrum eye drop and some pain meds. And we spent the following week watching her not really get any better while trying to determine if we should even still go to CarrierCon, but we ended up choosing to see it through, mostly because of the vet bills. And I actually talk a lot more about Olive's condition in the next vlog that will come after this one. So definitely subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss that update. That's also going to cover a lot of the other personal things that we were going through, and not necessarily bad things, but anyway, subscribe so you don't miss it. So to be at a show that was so great last year and find it to be incredibly lacking for us this year, while dealing with all of that, as well as the looming work we had to do to get ready for flooring on Monday, it didn't make sense to stay. So we let the coordinators know that we were leaving after the show ended on Saturday. Ryan got our hotel refunded, and we let our table neighbors know that they could share the empty space when we left for Sunday. I just want to be very clear that I don't make the decision to entirely leave a convention lightly. It takes a lot for me to make that call to pack up and leave, especially if there are still days left for the event, and the circumstances around this one made that decision easier than usual. I also want to mention that I'll be going into more detail about the convention in the following part, where I discuss general aspects about CarrierCon and the pros and cons that I experienced vending at this event, as well as share my profits and expenses for the show. Okay, so let's get into the overview. I have to check the dates because I genuinely don't remember when anything happened. So CarrierCon was held March 21st and 22nd, 2026 on the USS Hornet in Alameda, California. This is the first year that this event is a 2-day event. It is historically a single-day event. For the people this applies to, CarrierCon is a very cosplay-heavy event. There are lots of photo op opportunities around the USS Hornet, including the really awesome view of San Francisco across the bay. And it's also a very VTuber heavy event, if that's your sort of thing. They do concerts and panels with VTubers present. There's even a whole section in what is the vendor hall where there were some VTubers tabling, I guess. So if you are a VTuber merch artist or somebody who really loves VTuber stuff, this might be one to set your sights on. Ticket prices for CarrierCon for attendees were $40 for an adult single day ticket or $75 for the full weekend versus $30 for a single day ticket for under 17 years old or $55 for the full weekend for under 17 years old. They also had an optional $80 add-on where you can spend the night on the ship on Saturday, and that came with, I think, a meal and also a ghost tour of the ship. I was actually a little bit skeptical about this, and I'll talk about that later on. The tickets for the event were sold out for the allotted capacity, which I will also touch on momentarily. In Lay Spirit stats, we sold 80 products this year, and we had no thefts, which was great. However, it was only half of what I sold last year at CarrierCon in the single day that we were there. Our most popular product were sticker sheets. We sold 27 of those, and our least popular item were washi tapes. We sold 0. And this is a first. The most popular individual item we sold was a tie between our mushroom gacha log and our starry potion bottle. We sold 4 of each. So let's talk about some pros and cons of this event. Starting with the pros. I think the concept of CarrierCon is incredible. because it is not only just a super cool event, it's also supporting a historical landmark. I think a lot of the funds actually go back into like maintenance and restoration efforts for the ship. I would also like to give a huge shout out to the staff. They have been amazing both years we sold at this convention. They are very helpful. And the showrunner is also really great about asking for and receiving feedback. Obviously, we weren't there for the end of this one, but I remember last year he came around and asked vendors for feedback in person before the show was over. And I'm sure he did it again this time, but we also, both years that I was a part of it, received an email after the event was over requesting feedback. So love that. And overall, the event is just really organized and communicative. They're very great about sending out emails with important information and load-in instructions, because it's not an easy and straightforward convention to load in or out of because of the lift. And they're pretty easy to get a hold of too. As for some cons, obviously, I was not a big fan of how the artist alley was laid out this year. I'm already not a fan of cons that will cram their artist alley tables end to end and give us very little space, because it makes us feel like an afterthought. And I was really disappointed, obviously, that this happened this year. And even though people were saying that the decision to do that was to give more room within the aisles for ADA attendees, I feel like they didn't consider that some of their artists were also ADA. So there was no room for artists who might have struggled a little bit more than a able-bodied person to get out and around from their tables when you're crammed so close together. It was really not safe. Another thing I was really disappointed in is there were not food options on the ship this year. Last year there were food trucks out alongside the ship, and there was even an on-site like counter service where you could order like barbecue stuff, like hamburgers and hot dogs and stuff. And they didn't have any of that this year, which was kind of terrible because the ship itself is kind of isolated from other restaurants. So you have to get in your car and drive away to go get food if you didn't pack anything. And that's just not really a reasonable thing for vendors to be able to do, let alone if you're there by yourself. You physically can't just get up and leave for like an hour to go get food and bring it back. And I mentioned a minute ago about the option to do an overnight ghost tour. I actually could ask a friend about this. I haven't talked to him because he did it with his daughter. But as soon as I learned that you could book your stay overnight on the ship when the event is a 2-day show, I was a little bit concerned because you're just on a ship. I wasn't aware that they were going to be like securing the vendor hall or anything. And it's like anybody could just go and wander through the artist alley and nobody's really there to like keep an eye on things. So I don't know if that was an issue or not, but I was a little concerned about that aspect. So if you were there, if you were a part of that, or if you were another artist, like let me know your experience. If you felt that it was kind of suspicious or anything. I mean, the same kind of goes for the after hours concert. There was a VTuber concert after the vendor hall closed, and it was literally just on the other side of some museum items that separated the stage from the artist alley. So you still are in a situation where there are people who are not necessarily vendors who are in this space with your stuff too. So I don't know. That always kind of like freaks me out, especially with all the theft I experienced last year. So let me know your experiences on that. And something else I had mentioned earlier was the ticket capacity. Even though the event was sold out for, I think, the duration of the event, it did not feel like that. Last year it was really busy for one day, and that was also, I believe, a sold out event. This felt like it was half the capacity. And we actually learned that the capacity was lowered. The number was made smaller for the overall amount of tickets that could be sold because of the additional day. And I feel like that was just kind of a bummer, because I feel like most, like probably 90% of the badges that I saw were for full weekend badges. So there didn't seem to be much of an opportunity to make more money the second day if you made sales to those people on the first day. But this kind of just reinforces my sentiment about doing twice as much work in twice as much time to make the same amount of money as we did last year. So like, to put that into context, you know, we made a certain amount on one day last year with a higher capacity of attendees. And to have that attendee number for this year but make it 2 days. And we made half of what we made last year in 1 day to hopefully make that other half the next day. You're doing an extra day of work. You have more expenses because you have hotel costs if you're traveling and extra food cost to hopefully make the same amount that you would have made from a smaller amount of people the previous year, if that makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense. I'm just tired of having to do more work to make less, if not the same amount as before, you know? And in this economy, and when like it's already so hard to get into events and stuff and to make a living doing this, it's very frustrating. So I think that was really my biggest issue. Anyway, let's talk about money. As always, I like to, God, my bangs are driving me crazy. As always, I like to discuss my profits and expenses for each show to give you guys an idea of how I did and maybe understand how you might do, but please take my experiences with a grain of salt because they will not reflect your own. No two vendors have the same experience. I am just sharing my own for research purposes. That being said, I am going to show you my expense receipt in full dollar amounts. But if you want to see my profits in full dollar amounts, you have to check out my Patreon for $5 or more, or my YouTube members at the $2.99 level. Otherwise, you will be seeing a percentages pie chart to get an idea of what types of transactions were most popular and all of that jazz. So, that being said, here's my expense receipt. This is a little bit more than I would have liked to spend for a one-day event. Obviously, we didn't anticipate it being 1 day, and we did get the refund for the hotel, so that saved us some money. But it was $120 for the table for the weekend. I didn't even try to chase down a refund for half of it because that was my own decision to leave. And then we spent just under $100 for food, and that was eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the road. We didn't pack any snacks. We didn't really know what to expect. And we have been so discombobulated with all of stuff anyways that we didn't really plan accordingly like we otherwise would have. And then we drive an electric car, so our charging cost to get from Alameda to Fresno was just over $30, which given the state of gas, not at this time, I don't think. I don't remember what was happening in March globally. Anyways, it's pretty good compared to gas prices. As for my profits, you can check out the pie chart here. As usual, we have most of our transactions being card at 75%, 23% for cash sales, and one tiny Venmo transaction. So, to tie all of this up, I have decided that I am no longer going to do CarrierCon. And this really doesn't even have anything to do with like sardine aspect of it or like the capacity cap. Most of it is because of the 6-foot table. I have been saying for years that I've outgrown a 6-foot table and I need to actually stick by that, or at least be more choosy. You know, if I'm gonna spend my time doing these shows, I need to be more quality over quantity. Not to say that CarrierCon is not a quality convention. I heard great things from the other artists who did it, and if you want to give me your input, please leave me a comment down below. I keep managing to cram my stuff onto a 6-foot table, and it's always miserable all the time. But there are other conventions who have done the end-to-end thing that I'm like, this is not worth it for me. I want to, in my old age, be able to maneuver comfortably around my space. And if this is even an option for a convention like this, then I don't want to be part of it. However, I do want to stress that I do still support this show. I think it's a great show, and they will probably take the feedback from this show to heart, and they will do something about it for next year. I think this is a great show, especially for people local to the Bay Area, and I honestly feel like they should probably prioritize Bay Area artists a little bit more than what they have been. Like, I know that Fresno obviously is not even remotely considered the Bay Area, but like they have so many amazing artists up there that I know get overlooked in the jury process. So I just feel like if the circumstances, especially of a 6-foot table, are not up to my standards, it doesn't make sense for me to keep being in this pool and being chosen and taking this opportunity away from somebody else. So I am effectively removing my hat from this ring and giving the opportunity to another incredible artist who more than deserves my spot. Anyway, I have so many vlogs to catch up on from the last couple of months, and I'm still working my way through them because it is like present day right now. This was filmed, everything else was filmed like, what is it? 2 months ago, literally 2 months ago at this point. But definitely be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next vlog where I talk about not only more Olive health stuff, but we get into the home renovations now that we're homeowners, and it's a doozy. This next vlog, I don't even know how I'm gonna edit it because it is a doozy, truly. So please subscribe so you don't miss it. I'm gonna be very happy to get this one out because a lot of people were very excited for home reno vlogs. And yeah, I guess that's truly it for this one. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!
And that's why I wish you the best.